Hello everyone, this is Barbara from Lomilomi, Italia, in Maui with Kumu Jeana, Iwalani, Naluai.
Aloha mai kako.
We are so great to be here with you. It's really an honor to come back in your Omana spa and just talking about your journey into Hawaiian Lomilomi. Like, because I know you was working in other place and how you get this passion about Lomilomi. And
Yeah, well, I started this journey in physical therapy. So my background is very much in the mind. And I remember when I first started learning with the kupuna, when I went to Auntie Margaret, who was my first teacher, she was really getting us to look with a different set of lenses, you know, a different set of eyes, a different way of listening and observing. And I remember even one of my teachers, Auntie Mahilani Poipoi, telling me one day, "Girl, you think too good." And what she meant was, you think too much.
too much.
And so I was really frustrated with that background of learning, coming in, not being totally wide open, bringing new information in. And then it came to the time when I began to learn from more teachers and learn this Lomi technique, that I was really grateful for that background knowledge of the anatomy and the physiology and all of that, because what began to happen is, as I started to use these ideas of nana ikamaka, look with the eyes, and ho'olohe kapepeau, listen with the ears, close the mouth and quiet the eyes, pa'akawaha, so that the answer can come from within, I came to realize that the reason I took all those classes was so I could see into the body what was happening, see that ligament that wasn't working properly, or see that muscle or that bone that may be fractured that we're not going to do lomi on right now. We're just going to do prayers, that kind of thing. And then I was grateful for that background knowledge. But that's where it began, physical therapy. Another thing that really helped me in that journey was that because I had that background knowledge of the body and the inner workings of the body, when these elders were also teaching in that way of looking and listening and observing and don't ask questions, I knew what they were doing. I could see, oh wow, look what they're doing. That's so smart that they're beginning the opu that way, the stomach, because of course that's going to open the lymphatic drain. And oh, that's so brilliant, genius. Of course we're going to work at the attachments to release the whole muscle belly and the physiology of working with those receptors there. I understand, that makes so much sense to me. And then I can teach it, you know, because I can tell students, this is why we do that. Because many times I didn't get the why. Many times I saw it one time shown, or sometimes they weren't showing. Sometimes they were just telling you to do it on someone who was there in the moment, just like being thrown into the fire right in the moment, like, do this right here. And sometimes you feel awkward until you realize, oh, it's not about me. It's about channeling the knowledge and the insight and the spirit that wants to come through, and that's where they're going to get the healing from, and just being a space holder in that way. So some of those things I only heard stories about, never did until the moment when I needed it, and then I realized why they tell you to learn in that way, because they're downloading. If your mind is not clear, you may miss it. But when they download, it goes somewhere into your mind, so that 5 years, 10 years down the road, when your kumus are gone and you need it, that knowledge is there. It's an important way to learn, and it's the way that now I've come to really appreciate. Yeah.
So it's like have like spiritual guide you into the work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what all of my teachers were trying to share with me. And it's the way that they worked. They were intimately working down to the soul of the person that was there. And many of them had tremendous gifts because they were kept open from a very young age, where a lot of us, I feel like, at a very young age get shut down to some of that intuitive capacity that we that we come in with. And for some of us on our journey to open back up to that, it takes a little bit of unlearning to open back up to that that wants to come through. And I think that those kupunas saw that yearning, that desire to learn, that openness to really bring these teachings all the way forward. And so when the time came for them to pass it, and they thought I was ready even before I thought I was ready to teach, you know, and that's so beautiful about the kupuna. You know, they're like, oh yeah, you're ready. And the mind is like, no, I'm not ready. I need like 10, maybe 20 more years before I'll be there. And they're like, no, you are there already. Just stand in it already. Sit in the seat already. You know, and that's really how I came to start sharing the work. In 2005 was my very first class. And the very cool thing about that was that as Hawaiians, because of things that happened in our histories, a lot of the old information was kind of taboo. We didn't want to learn that because we wanted to assimilate into American culture. And I know my grandmother was a native speaker, but she didn't let any of her children, her 6 children, learn Hawaiian language. So for me to want to come back to Hawaii to learn this work, even for my family, initially my father especially was like, oh, why, you know? Yeah. Because we kind of left that behind when we became Americans, you know? And for me, that wasn't an option. The ancestors had another plan for me. And so in my very first class, my father was there. Wow. And when he was there sitting in the circle, all the ancestors were working on him, and he started also to open. And now he has taken his seat as a kupuna, a Hawaiian kupuna, learning the teachings and carrying the knowledge. And it's a beautiful expression of what he thought was lost that was there still, because it was in his bones and his DNA. So yeah, now he's also standing beside me to stand in his Hawaiian-ness in these teachings that we've been given.
Yeah, it's amazing how the new generation going back to the roots of Hawaiian history and Hawaiian protocol, and it's very important, I think, for the future, no?
I think so. One of my teachers, Kumu Kau'ohali, had a conversation with God. And in this conversation, he said, God, why? Why did you create Hawaii? And the creator said, well, because Hawaii is supposed to clean the air, heal the water, heal the earth, and heal the people. We were given a model of how to be in pono, in harmony, and we lived here for thousands of years, totally isolated from the rest of the world, living that way. And we haven't forgotten that knowledge, hopefully. And many of us are now returning to that. And so even though these are Hawaiian spiritual teachings, these are universal teachings. And when we then go out and begin to share these universal teachings, because the other part about that is that we are very few Hawaiians on the planet. And it's going to take more than just Hawaiians to deliver that message of aloha and that message of healing, because many of my teachers shared about how that spirit of aloha and these teachings can heal the world. And I didn't know when they shared that with me what exactly that looked like, but I'm beginning to see, because as different people come here to Ho'omana to learn from all different places in the world, I always say every class it's a world canoe. We have, Japan and Australia and New Zealand and Europe and all these different beautiful places on the planet, and we're sharing these Hawaiian teachings, but they're universal teachings. And what I notice happens is that they get inspired to start digging for their bones and looking into their own histories and their own cultures, and spiritually listening to those ancestors that came before them who were also healing and doing healing work and tapping into that knowing for themselves. And so then it becomes less of a, I'm learning something from out here, and it becomes more of, no, I'm activating and remembering something from in here. And that's what they bring forward as they go out from here into the world to share these beautiful teachings of aloha and spirituality. And then it becomes that, no, I'm a messenger from my ancestors, and I've just learned to remember from these Hawaiian teachings. And that's my hope for people, that they don't just think of Hawaii as this paradise, you know, and that Hawaii is always rainbows and lollipops, because I tell you, Hawaii is not always rainbows and lollipops. We have our own history and story, just like everybody else in the world. And we've, and it's time for us as Hawaiians to come more into an embodiment of those teachings. And I think that for everyone who's on the planet at this time, we're getting that same message. And so we're finding each other, and we're coming together with one heart and one mind to as a collective open the way, open the light for more healing to happen on a planetary level.
Yeah, I think this is what fascinates me about Hawaiian, is this Ho'ana, no? This sense of family, cooperation, this helping each other, that is really, I mean, here is very stronger, but like where I live in Europe is not always easy to find the support from your Ohana. And in Hawaii is very deep roots.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I know sometimes, you know, especially depending on whatever someone's family story is, sometimes the ones, like for instance, this story that I said about my father, he wasn't carrying those traditions. So even though I was the first one to do that in our family, I needed to step up to do that, because when we begin to heal old stories and bring in new understanding, it heals the whole family line backwards and forwards, so that my children, my son Kala, he's 11 now, was the first native speaker since my grandmother. That's 92 years in a family of not speaking the language.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's powerful, right? So sometimes we can't just be doing exactly what our family is doing, because sometimes we need to be the ones to step forward so that we can carry the family to the next place in our evolution. And it heals some of those things that have happened before. I also think that sometimes support from community as well isn't always there, because maybe we weren't brought here to just be ordinary. Maybe we were here to be the extraordinary ones that lead in a way that others can say, oh, I know that wasn't done before. We haven't done that, or maybe we haven't done that for 1,000 years, but you know, I can see that this person is opening the way for us all to step in. And then you'll see that those ones that are resonant with that energetic that you're holding get on board. And now you get a world canoe instead of just a one-man, you know, canoe. And with a world canoe, you know, Hokulea just sailed all the way around the world. Took 3 years, but they went to like over 100 countries, 180 countries or something like that, I think. And they just were in Maui a couple weeks ago, so we got to go see that beautiful voyaging canoe, our Hokulea. So yeah, it just takes that one to hold up the torch, to light the path for everyone else to choose how they want to move forward.
And you talk about universal teaching, no? And like the hybrid that the Hawaiian have, how you can relate to this her breath with the spiritual life, and especially in Lomilomi technique?
So the ha, I think everybody on the planet now knows the word aloha. I think thank you to, Elvis and Blue Hawaii back in the day, right? So aloha, the allo is that part of us that comes, or that faces source, and that we face one another, the allo. This is our allo. And then the ha is the breath, the divine breath of life, came to us from Creator Source. And so aloha has a very deep meaning. And how we incorporate this into the work that we do, that ha, that breath of life, is something that sometimes people aren't relating to in that way as being the divine breath of life. Even with the kind of gratitude that, wow, I was given this, breath, this divinity. It's really about having people awaken to their own divinity because it's theirs. It was given. So we work with them to breathe, but we also are doing our own breath work. So have you ever, on a cold day, we don't have so many of those here, but you can see your breath. Yeah. The reason you can see your breath is because it's water. It's water. And so actually the vaiola, the breath of life, the water of life, it's in the breath too. So when we breathe that breath of life, that water, that is going into our hands, we can use the breath to move energy. We can use the breath to inhale energies and send it where it needs to go. As practitioners, there's a lot of different ways that we can use the breath. And then if you then think of vai, which is the water, vaiola, the water, the life-giving water, it's the same water that we have in our bodies. We're 65 to 85% water, depending on how old we are. And so in Lomi, we're also not just working only with the breath, but we're also moving the water. And one of the ways that we move the water in the body is with chant and oli. So we have one of the pillars of Hawaiian healing is la'okahea, which is the calling medicine. It's how we offer chant and prayer. And so this is coming also from that same place of intention, of connection to spirit. And it's another way that we use our breath with the mana of the words and the vibration and tone in the voice. A lot of times in our Hawaiian chants, you hear this i'i, which feels very different in the body than going when we create a wave, it moves the water in the body and it's felt. It creates more movement. So even the way that we use the breath through the chant makes a difference as far as how we move that vai, that water in the body. And so I see breath as being, yes, but I also see breath as something totally different. It's bringing in the spirit, using the breath, and also through the words and through the tones and through the vibration, chanting with the breath behind it. And that also can be very powerful. So we teach that and we use that in our classes. And I feel that the chant, the la'okahea, for me, it's like 85% of the healing that happens. And the technique is just the next 15% leftovers to help you push that out of the physical body that's still there. Because we, in our Hawaiian philosophy of care, believe in it really being about the spiritual emotional body. That's the source. So one of our Hawaiian teachings is na ike kumu, look to the source. So if we're only looking to the symptom, that's not really going to, that's just a Band-Aid, right? If we're only looking to the symptom. But if we look to the source, we'll see that, oh, maybe the reason that you have that shoulder pain is because you're carrying too much. Maybe you need to learn how to receive a little bit rather than be giving all the time. Maybe you need to open your heart a little bit more and allow more love to pour through, and maybe that's what's blocking the shoulder. Maybe it's not because you painted your house this weekend. And that understanding helps you then to just look a little deeper to what's going on emotionally, spiritually, and then we can hold a deeper level of space for them with our prayers to heal that spiritual emotional wound. And sometimes you might not even need to do Lomi, and sometimes you have to, because you need to then bring that intention to the physical plane and help them to move it out of the physical body once it's already released in the spiritual emotional body, because all bodies are of equal importance for the being. Right. There's all these bodies, but we're working on the being, and the being includes all of those things.
And this is the things you teach in the fundamental Lomi?
Yes.
Yeah, this is why it's so important.
This is the foundation. So in the fundamental Lomi, it's important to know the history, because if you know the history, then you can begin to understand where people are at when they come to lie on your table and meet them there. It's important to know ho'oponopono in the beginning, because you're already working with the spirit the moment that they come to lie on your table. If we were just practitioners who only wanted to push muscles, then we're only going to be attracting the clients that only want, don't even talk to me, just like fix me up, and so we want to make sure that in that fundamental class, we're giving the tools that are needed. It used to be that I was teaching a lot about the spiritual aspect in the advanced training. But then what I started finding was that because we are in our own evolutionary process of expanded consciousness as a collective globally, I mean, if you think about it, even 20 years ago, you weren't having conversations about energy or spirituality or these kinds of things, and now it's like kind of mainstream. I mean, you can get on Oprah and you can be listening to a medium, on national television. So we are at a place in our evolutionary process as human beings where it's too late to teach people about the spirituality in the advanced class. You have to give them the tools that they need earlier than that, because the people that are coming to lie on their tables are in need of that type of healing already. And so we have to set them up from the foundation to be holding space on a deeper level, spiritually, emotionally. So we do that by teaching about ho'oponopono, by teaching people to really drop into that place of intuition, and teaching how to listen with the ears and look with the eyes in a different way than I think that we've been taught as a collective, but not a different way than our spirit knows how to work. Yeah. So all of those things I think are essential pieces to the foundation and fundamentals.
And this is the things that make Lomilomi so different from the other technique of massage?
Yes, I think that why Lomi is different is because we're working on that spiritual level. Not that there aren't other types of therapies that are not also affecting on that level, but it's not just spiritual for the client, it's also spiritual for the practitioner. So I think we don't get enough training in our traditional massage classes about how to hold sacred space, because we are stepping into someone's sacred field of energy and all of their stories and their lineage stories and their soul histories. And so there's a lot more unseen than is even seen when we're working on someone. So I think what is so different about Lomilomi is that we are, as a practitioner, not just working with a set of tools. We have to be clear ourselves. We have to be connected also spiritually in a place of alignment. And I think most therapists, I know in America, the average lifespan of a massage therapist is 7 years. My teachers were 80, 60 to 80 years old and still doing this work. And I hope I'm also 60 to 80 years old doing that work. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're not trying to just fix someone. We are not just expending our own energy to help someone else. We're plugging into a greater universal energy and allowing that to pour through. So one, we're not working alone. Two, we're absolutely supported. We're calling on our ancestral support and creator support. We're also using the support of different elements from the land. Hot stones, who have also their own spiritual nature that lends to the healing process. Tea leaf and salt, some of the practices that we do to wash the bones with salt so that you can help to purify the journey for someone, or working with the la'au, the tea leaf, or different plant medicines. So again, we're not working alone.
Yeah.
And so I think as well, bringing in those prayers and the power of prayer when we are working can be very different from what you might see also in traditional massage. And if you believe that that's 85% of the healing and you're only using that 15%, think of what the potential might be. Yeah. As well, we're using tools that are not as, we're not using small muscle groups. So we're using our forearms rather than the fingers. We're using our body weight shift rather than just pushing with our arms. We're moving from our center and, pushing up from the earth. And I think all of those ways that we make sure that we're open in all of our joints when we work is another aspect to longevity for the practitioner and what's different about Lomilomi, so that you can work till you're 80 and not, or 60 or however long, and not break down your joints, not break down your ligaments, not get carpal tunnel because you're holding other people's energy inside your wrist because your wrist was like this. Yeah. We teach to work in a way that's open so the energy can flow. And those are some of, I think, what really sets Lomilomi apart, both the technique and the spiritual aspect of the work.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we are really looking forward to attend a class with you, Jeana, and
yes.
To have you in Italy, in Europe, or maybe here.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, I look forward to working with everyone. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
For your time and to let us do this interview. Really, mahalo.
Mahalo. Aloha. Ahui ho.